Golf is the only major sport where there are no teammates to blame, no coaches to fire, and nowhere to hide when disaster strikes. One moment you're cruising toward victory, the next you're watching your career's defining moment become a highlight reel of failure that will be replayed for decades. Did you know a major champion once made a 13 on Augusta's par 3/12th? Or that an HD video review once flipped the outcome of a major? In this video, I'll break down the 10 most catastrophic meltdowns in golf tournament history, the moments where victory turned to agony in a matter of minutes, often because of a single disastrous decision. These aren't just bad rounds or tough losses, they're the career-defining collapses that change the trajectory of golf history. And the most shocking part? Some of these players were never the same again, their confidence shattered by a single hole that will follow them for the rest of their lives. Number 1. Jean van de Velde, 1999 Open Championship. The gold standard of golf collapses happened at Carnoustie in 1999, where Frenchman Jean van de Velde arrived at the 18th tee on Sunday with a 3-shot lead. He needed only a double bogey 6 on the final hole to become the first Frenchman to win the Claret Jug since 1907. What followed was pure golf tragedy. Instead of playing conservatively, van de Velde pulled out driver and pushed his tee shot right. Rather than laying up with his second shot, he attempted to reach the green, sending his ball off the grandstand and into thick rough. His third shot found the Barry Burn water hazard. After removing his shoes and socks and wading into the water, he wisely took a drop. His fifth shot landed in a greenside bunker. He managed to get up and down for a triple bogey 7, forcing a playoff with Paul Lawrie and Justin Leonard. Visibly shell-shocked, van de Velde lost the 4-hole playoff to Lawrie, who had started the day 10 strokes behind. The collapse was so monumental that the term "pulling a van de Velde" entered the golf lexicon. Though he continued playing professionally, van de Velde never won another European Tour event and never contended in another major championship. The aftermath was particularly cruel. Van de Velde became more famous for how he lost than many champions are for their victories. His collapse serves as the ultimate reminder that in golf, nothing is certain until the final putt drops. Number 2. Phil Mickelson, 2006 U.S. Open. Phil Mickelson arrived at the 2006 U.S. Open at Winged Foot, seeking his third consecutive major championship, having won the 2005 PGA Championship and the 2006 Masters. Standing on the 18th tee on Sunday with a 1-shot lead, Mickelson was just one good hole away from capturing the U.S. Open, the one major that had repeatedly eluded him. Instead of playing conservatively, Mickelson pulled out driver and sliced his tee shot well left, where it bounced off a hospitality tent. Rather than pitching back to the fairway, he attempted a heroic recovery shot that struck a tree and barely moved. His third shot plugged in a greenside bunker. After blasting out, he failed to save bogey and tapped in for a devastating double bogey 6. Jeff Ogilvy, already in the clubhouse, became the unlikely champion as Mickelson finished with a final round 74. In his post-round interview, a shell-shocked Mickelson uttered the now famous line, "I am such an idiot." What made this collapse particularly painful was that it continued Mickelson's U.S. Open heartbreak. He had already finished second in 1999, 2002, and 2004. The 2006 disaster was his fourth runner-up finish, and he would go on to finish second 2 more times in 2009 and 2013. Unlike some others on this list, Mickelson's career remained stellar after this collapse. He won 2 more majors, 2010 Masters, 2013 Open Championship, and remained one of golf's most popular figures. However, the U.S. Open remained the one major championship he couldn't capture, denying him the career Grand Slam despite a record 6 runner-up finishes. Number 3. Greg Norman, 1996 Masters. Entering the final round of the 1996 Masters, Greg Norman held a seemingly insurmountable 6-shot lead over Nick Faldo. Norman had been dominant all week, shooting rounds of 63, 69, 71 to position himself for his first green jacket after years of Masters heartbreak. What unfolded on that Sunday was painful to watch. Norman's swing began to falter on the front 9, and his confidence visibly eroded with each hole. He bogeyed 9, 10, and 11, then hit his tee shot into the water on the par 3/12th for a double bogey. By the 13th hole, his 6-shot lead had completely evaporated. As Norman continued to struggle, Faldo played flawless golf, shooting a 67 to Norman's 78. The 11-shot swing resulted in a 5-stroke victory for Faldo, widely called one of the greatest collapses in Masters in major history. The collapse was particularly devastating because of Norman's history at Augusta. He had finished runner-up at the Masters 3 times previously, including losing to Jack Nicklaus's famous charge in 1986 and Larry Mease's miraculous chip-in playoff shot in 1987. The 1996 disaster cemented Norman's reputation as golf's most star-crossed champion, a player whose immense talents were overshadowed by his major championship heartbreaks. Norman never seriously contended at the Masters again. Though he remained one of golf's most successful and popular figures, the 1996 collapse became the defining moment of his otherwise illustrious career. Number 4. Jordan Spieth, 2016 Masters. Jordan Spieth's collapse at the 2016 Masters was particularly shocking because of how suddenly it happened. The defending champion, Spieth had led after each of the first 3 rounds and maintained a 5-shot lead as he made the turn on Sunday. He appeared to be cruising to his second consecutive green jacket. After back-to-back bogeys at 10 and 11, Spieth reached the short but treacherous 12th hole, the par 3 known as Golden Bell. Spieth's tee shot inexplicably found Rae's Creek. After taking a drop, his third shot also found the water. From the drop zone again, he played his 5th to the back bunker, splashed out, and holed the putt for a quadruple bogey 7. In the span of a single hole, Spieth went from leading by 1 to trailing by 3. Though he birdied the 13th and 15th holes in an attempt to recover, he couldn't catch Englishman Danny Willett, who claimed the green jacket. What made Spieth's collapse unique was its concentrated nature. Unlike other collapses that unfolded over several holes, Spieth's disaster happened in a matter of minutes on a single hole. The quadruple bogey was the highest score Spieth had ever recorded on any hole in a major championship. Unlike some others who suffered major collapses, Spieth rebounded quickly, winning the 2017 Open Championship. However, the 12th hole at Augusta remained a psychological hurdle. In subsequent Masters, cameras and commentators paid particular attention to how Spieth played the hole, and he admitted that the memories of 2016 lingered whenever he stood on that tee. If you're finding these golf meltdown stories fascinating, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications. I'm constantly diving deep into golf's most dramatic moments and sharing the stories behind them. Drop a comment below telling me which tournament collapse you think was the most devastating, and I'll share my thoughts on how it changed golf history. Now, let's continue with more unforgettable golf disasters that changed careers forever. Number 5. Dustin Johnson, 2010 U.S. Open. Dustin Johnson's collapse at the 2010 U.S. Open at Pebble Beach was unique because it happened so quickly that many viewers barely had time to process it. Johnson held a 3-shot lead entering Sunday's final round, having played brilliantly on a course where he had won the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am twice. Johnson's collapse was swift and total. He triple bogeyed the second hole, then double bogeyed the third. By the time he made the turn, his 3-shot lead had become a 5-shot deficit. He ultimately shot an 82, one of the worst final rounds by a 54-hole leader in U.S. Open history. What made Johnson's collapse particularly notable was that it was just the first in a series of major championship heartbreaks. Later that same year at the PGA Championship, Johnson grounded his club in what he didn't realize was a bunker on the 72nd hole, incurring a 2-stroke penalty that kept him out of a playoff. At the 2015 U.S. Open at Chambers Bay, Johnson had a 12-foot eagle putt on the final hole to win the championship. He missed, then also missed the 3-foot return putt for birdie that would have forced a playoff with Jordan Spieth. Johnson's story, however, has a redemptive arc. He finally broke through at the 2016 U.S. Open at Oakmont, overcoming a controversial penalty ruling to win his first major championship. His journey from repeated heartbreak to major champion demonstrated remarkable resilience and stands as one of golf's great comeback stories. Number 6. Arnold Palmer, 1966 U.S. Open. Even the greatest players aren't immune to major championship collapses. Arnold Palmer's disaster at the 1966 U.S. Open at Olympic Club stands as one of the most shocking in golf history, given Palmer's stature and experience. Palmer held a 7-stroke lead with just 9 holes to play in the final round. The tournament appeared to be a coronation for the 36-year-old Palmer, who was seeking his 8th major championship. What followed was almost unthinkable. Palmer played the back 9 in 39 shots, including bogeys at 13, 15, 16, and 17. Meanwhile, Billy Casper mounted a charge, shooting a 32 on the back 9. The 7-shot lead completely evaporated, and the two finished tied, forcing an 18-hole playoff the next day. In the playoff, Palmer again built a lead, going 2 up after 8 holes. But Casper rallied again, eventually winning by 4 strokes. The collapse was particularly significant because Palmer never won another major championship. The 1966 U.S. Open represented his last realistic chance to add to his major tally. What made Palmer's collapse especially poignant was that it came at the hands of Casper, a contemporary who never received the same adulation as Palmer, despite having a comparable record. The 1966 U.S. Open shifted the narrative around both players' careers and stands as one of the great what-ifs in golf history. Number 7. I.K. Kim, 2012 Kraft Nabisco Championship. Not all devastating collapses involve multiple holes or shots. Sometimes a single stroke can change a career trajectory. At the 2012 Kraft Nabisco Championship, now known as the Chevron Championship, South Korea's Ik Kim stood over a 1-foot putt on the 72nd hole that would have secured her first major championship. What happened next defied belief. Kim's putt, so short that most professionals wouldn't even mark their ball, horseshoed around the cup and stayed out. The gallery gasped in disbelief. Kim, visibly stunned, managed to compose herself enough to make the comeback putt, forcing a playoff with Sun Young Yu, which Kim lost on the first extra hole. The missed putt became an instant classic in the pantheon of golf disasters. ESPN ranked it among the most shocking moments in golf history, and it was replayed countless times on sports highlight shows around the world. What makes Kim's story particularly compelling is her resilience. Though she struggled in the immediate aftermath of the miss, she eventually rebuilt her career and captured her first major championship at the 2017 Women's British Open, finally exorcising the demons of that 1-foot miss 5 years earlier. Number 8. Rory McIlroy, 2011 Masters. Rory McIlroy's collapse at the 2011 Masters was as dramatic as it was unexpected. The 21-year-old Northern Irishman had played brilliantly for 3 rounds, building a 4-shot lead heading into Sunday. He appeared poised to become the second youngest Masters champion in history. Then came the back 9 on Sunday. After a shaky front 9 where he maintained a 1-shot lead, McIlroy hooked his tee shot on the 10th hole so badly that it ended up between 2 cabins left of the fairway in an area where patrons rarely venture. He eventually made a triple bogey 7. The disaster continued with a 3-putt bogey on 11 and a 4-putt double bogey on 12. By the time he reached the 13th tee, McIlroy had gone from leading the Masters to being out of contention entirely. He finished with a final round 80, dropping from first to tied for 15th. What makes McIlroy's collapse unique is how quickly and completely he rebounded. Just 2 months later, he won the US Open by 8 shots, setting numerous records in the process. He would go on to win 4 major championships by age 25, though interestingly, the Masters remains the only major he hasn't captured. McIlroy's ability to use the 2011 Masters collapse as fuel, rather than allowing it to define him, demonstrates the mental toughness that separates great champions from those who never recover from their darkest moments. Number 9. Scott Hoch, 1989 Masters. Sometimes a collapse can be distilled to a single moment. One putt that, if made, would have changed a player's entire legacy. For Scott Hoch, that moment came in a playoff against Nick Faldo at the 1989 Masters. After finishing tied in regulation, Hoch and Faldo headed to a sudden death playoff. On the first playoff hole, Hoch had a 2-foot putt to win the green jacket. It was the kind of putt that professionals make 99.9% of the time, a distance so short that television commentators often call it a gimme. Hoch's putt lipped out. The gallery gasped. Hoch himself looked stunned. On the next playoff hole, Faldo made a 25-foot birdie putt in the gathering darkness to win the tournament, sparking the enduring and unfair Hoch rhymes with choke quip that dogged him afterward. What makes Hoch's miss particularly painful is that he never won a major championship. That single putt represented his best chance at golf immortality, and it slipped away in the most agonizing fashion possible. Despite the miss, Hoch had a very successful career, winning 11 PGA Tour events and earning over $20 million. But in a sport where legacies are largely defined by major championships, that single missed putt at Augusta remains the moment most golf fans remember when they hear his name. Number 10. Thomas Bjorn, 2003 Open Championship. The 2003 Open Championship at Royal St. George's provided one of the most visually memorable collapses in major championship history. Denmark's Thomas Bjorn held a 2-shot lead with 3 holes to play and appeared poised to capture his first major championship. On the par 3 16th hole, Bjorn's tee shot found a bunker. What should have been a routine sand save turned into a nightmare. His first attempt to escape the bunker saw his ball roll back to his feet. His second attempt did the same. He finally escaped on his 3rd try, but the damage was done. A double bogey that erased his lead. Still rattled from the bunker disaster, Bjorn bogeyed the 17th hole as well. He ended up finishing 1 shot behind surprise winner Ben Curtis, who had begun the day well behind the leaders. The image of Bjorn's ball rolling back down the bunker face became an instant classic in the highlight reel of golf disasters. The collapse was particularly painful because Bjorn had been in control of the tournament for much of the final round, only to see it slip away in a matter of minutes. Like many others on this list, Bjorn never won a major championship, making the 2003 Open Championship his closest brush with golf immortality. He did, however, find redemption of sorts when he captained Europe to a resounding victory in the 2018 Ryder Cup. The collapses we've explored represent golf at its most dramatic and heartbreaking. What makes these meltdowns so compelling isn't just the strokes lost, but the human element. The visible struggle as pressure transforms champions into cautionary tales. Some players rebounded to win multiple majors while others never recovered, their careers forever defined by a single disastrous hole. These moments remind us why golf captivates us. No lead is ever truly safe, and victory can transform into defeat in a matter of minutes. The fine line between immortality and infamy often comes down to a single decision, a momentary lapse in judgment, or simply the cruel bounce of a ball. If you found these golf collapse stories fascinating, smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications. I'm constantly diving deep into golf's most dramatic moments and sharing the stories behind them. Drop a comment below telling me which collapse you think was the most devastating, and I'll see you in the next video.